This is where we are. I hope people realize this is where we are. Professor suspended after saying it would be more admirable to kill racist speaker than protest. Now, I've been saying for a while, civil war, and for a period, there were people saying that I was crazy and that I was wrong. And I always try to preface it like, look, man, I'm just reading the news. OK, I'm reading. There's this article 5 years ago saying the likelihood of a civil war in the next 5 years was 35%. And they said some national security experts put it as high as 90%. And the question is, why back in 2018 did they think that? Is because Proud Boys and Antifa were fighting in the streets? It's because Antifa was smashing up windows and torching vehicles. Street violence was escalating, and it was political. I remember I had these conservatives being like, you're crazy. It's never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Maybe, maybe not. I still don't know. I'm not a psychic. I can only tell you where we are. And where we are now is a professor suspended, literally telling his students to kill people. After everything that just happened yesterday, it's just crazy. Here's the story. Stephen Shaviro, a professor in Wayne State University's English department, was suspended without pay after he made a Facebook post that encouraged people to kill their political opponents instead of merely protest them. This is how it always begins. Please just read about this stuff. Now, the American Civil War is very different. You have a bunch of states that are in a union. Let me break this down. All right. In states, in countries where there is a single governing authority for the most part, and cities, I like to use Spain as an example. Imagine one state, okay? One state begins fighting. Who's the government? All right. The governor says, this is our state. We're in charge. Does a mayor fight the governor? With the American Civil War, you had sovereign states and a weaker federal government. The states were effectively sovereign. So when a state said, we determine for ourselves, they decided to leave. It created a union conflict, a union of states fighting each other. There's that line in National Treasure where Nicolas Cage says, before the Civil War, people would say the United States are. And after the Civil War, people would say the United States is. Before the Civil War, the point being made was, I don't know if it's true, it's from a movie, but the idea being conveyed was that the states were individual. The United States are a band of blah, 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 blah. Get the point. And afterwards, the U.S. just became the name of a single country under one governing authority. So what we see here, I'm not going to read what this guy said. I'll paraphrase it. He says, I think it is far more admirable than calls for violence. More admirable to, and then he calls for violence, as opposed to shouting them down. He basically says, when right-wing groups invite speakers to campus, it is precisely because they want to provoke an incident that discredits the left and give more publicity and validation to these reprehensible views. Well, because this guy's a psychotic cult member, he believes this, or he's lying. When Michael Knowles speaks at a university, it's because they want their ideas represented among the student body, because universities are supposed to be places where people learn. But to the cult members, they're churches. And they're basically saying, you're coming into our church and bringing these ideas. To these far left extremists, Michael Knowles or Ben Shapiro or anybody else going to a university is an invasion into their safe ideological space. Whereas to Ben Shapiro or conservative, it's bringing ideas to a learning place to share ideas. He continued, the protesters get blamed instead of the bigoted speaker. The university administration finds a perfect excuse to side publicly with the racist or phobes. The national and international press have a field day saying the bigots are the ones being oppressed, rather than the people those bigots actually hate being the victims of oppression. A screenshot of the professor's Twitter account, which is now private, which is set to private amid the scandal. That's an incomplete sentence. A screenshot of Professor Stephen Titier's Twitter account, comma, which is set to private amid the scandal. Sentence fragment, New York Post, I guess. Shaviro was suspended by Wayne State University without pay after he suggested it would be preferable to kill someone who he deems racist than merely protest. Shaviro pointed to the assassination of Simon Petliura, an anti-Semitic Ukrainian politician, and his murderer's subsequent acquittal as evidence the approach works. Wayne State President M. Roy Wilson released a statement condemning the post and announced the professor had been suspended without pay. Further, he said the university referred the post to law enforcement and authorities. Quote, "We have on many occasions defended the right of free speech guaranteed by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. But we feel this post far exceeds the bounds of reasonable or protected speech. It is, at best, morally reprehensible and at worst, criminal. We have referred this to law enforcement agencies for further review and investigation. Pending their review, we have suspended the professor with pay, effective immediately," he continued. While Shaviro has been condemned by many, he spent his academic career at the center of power rather than the fringes. MIT Press published 2 of his books, one of them as recently as 2021. Shaviro also holds a bachelor's, master's, and PhD from Yale. Earlier this month, there were 2 widely reported on cases of conservative speakers being shut down. The first was U.S. federal judge Kyle Duncan, who was appointed to the bench by President Trump. And the second was activist Charlie Kirk at UC Davis. Shaviro's comments come amid continued debate about free speech on campus. Shaviro did not return a request for comment. There was additionally another incident that Timcast News covered quite well with, I believe it was Michael Knowles, and large crowds outside screaming Nazi, Nazi, fascist, among other things. Look, man, I'd love to navigate out of this. I'd love to make sure there's no violence, because you know what I enjoy? I enjoy hanging out with my friends. I love the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is like the best holiday ever. I normally don't like holidays, but the Super Bowl is good because it's always on a Sunday, which means I don't got to take work off. Nobody stops working. We get to have crab dip, chili dip, nachos, sour cream, hot sauce, wings, cheesy sticks. And this Super Bowl, we had the game on. People were hanging out. There was beers. There was partying. It's my favorite holiday. It's not a real holiday. It's just a cultural tradition. I want more of that. I want humans to do work. Focus on getting us to the stars and advancing humanity. And then to enjoy the weekends with their friends and family, having good food with a smile on their faces, get some exercise, get out there, do some good. These people don't want this. They want gluttony. They want short-term gains. They want pleasure. They don't seek for anything. You take a look at the ideology, and they advocate for things like destroying technology because we're better off living in villages in the middle of the woods. But that's regression. That's bringing us back to the Stone Age. We have come so far. Humanity as a body has learned so much. It's incredible. Now, I don't know what exists beyond humanity. I don't know exactly what this universe is or is supposed to be. Just that we're here, and with our limited capacity for understanding, which is quite unfortunate, it's one of the most depressing things about existence, we've done tremendously well to understand the world around us and take control of it. I think that's fantastic. I think we have to be careful about pollution. We have to be careful not to disrupt the natural state for which we live because we rely on it. And I think people need to understand something. We are a part of this planet. We are not on it. We breathe the air, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. We can't leave it. We only exist in this atmosphere. It's amazing. When we try to leave this atmosphere, we have to contain a portion of it so that we can exist in it. We have to take with us the thing that surrounds outside of our bodies. We are systems within this structure, not external from it. I see all of this. I see success and I see opportunity. Terraforming other worlds, shaping them, Dyson spheres, interplanetary travel, interstellar colonization. That's the opportunity. That's where we need to go. I look at these people, deranged psychopaths who want to stimulate the dopamine, and that's it. That's it. What's their plan? What's their hope? They don't have one. They don't have a vision of the future. They don't plan ahead. They simply want to feel good right now. And if you get in their way for any reason, they will destroy. It's a zombie horde. Zombie horde has no purpose, has no function, has no goal, simply to convert more and destroy more. And that's what we're seeing here. After everything that's happened, this past, just the other day. To get a story like this, I should say, is not surprising, but I hope you realize where we are headed. And I hope things get better. But I say that every time, don't I? I say every time, maybe it will all stop. Maybe it will get better. But hey, it's only gotten worse. So you tell me, man. You tell me. I don't have the answers. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.